Hello everybody and welcome to episode 2 of DTDcember season 2. For those of you who didn't watch my previous videos, this is a series in which I'll be counting down my top 24 greatest missions in Grand Theft Auto. If you want to know more about how this is going to work, check out my introductory video where I explain this whole thing. And if you haven't yet, make sure to watch episode 1 to see which missions have already made my list. Also, feel free to watch last year's DTDcember where I counted down my top 12 GTA villains of all time. Alright, no more plugging, let's get on with the video.
Man, I'm sick of getting old, yeah, wanna stay a kid.
I'm gonna be straight up with you guys, this is gonna be the only Liberty City Stories mission on my list, since, truth be told, most of this game's missions aren't all that memorable. But with that being said, the Portland Chainsaw Masquerade is undoubtedly a mission that stands out within the GTA franchise as a whole. In an otherwise particularly serious entry into the Grand Theft Auto series, you know, at least compared to some others. This is a mission that gives you a fun break from all the Mafia family turmoil within Liberty City by giving you an enjoyable arcadey survival fight, complete with chainsaws, if you couldn't guess based on its title. In this one, we're lured into an ambush by Vincenzo, who sicks his chainsaw-wielding goons upon us, forcing us to run away from them in this 2D side-scroller-like battle. And once you've created enough space, you must use your guns to exterminate your foes before they can close the distance and cut you up. Then after they finish spawning and you wipe them all out, Vincenzo will come out to play, and it's up to you to deal with him appropriately to tie up this loose end of the story. In my opinion, this is probably the funnest and most memorable mission within Liberty City Stories, and that's mainly because this is just about the only mission I could think of from this game before I began my research for this series. Ultimately, this game in general just isn't all too memorable for me, and that could just be because I never really played it while growing up, so don't hate me for its lack of representation going forward. That's not to say it's a bad game or anything. After all, I'm sure some of you already know my opinion of it. Just maybe I need to play this game again soon so I can create some more memories of it. Nonetheless, while the game itself isn't memorable to me, the Portland Chainsaw Masquerade stands out for its uniqueness and its level of fun, so it's going to take this place on my list. Grand Theft Auto 5 provided us with so many memorable moments throughout its story, and I'd have to argue that most of these involved Trevor Phillips in one way or another.
Don't you ever not tell me things I want to know!
So it only makes sense that the mission where he's introduced be included as one of my favorite missions of all time. Of course, Mr. Phillips is arguably one of the most controversial missions in the entire series. Not for reasons pertaining to the showcase of torture, or even for letting the player have some hot coffee. Rather, this mission is infamous for killing off a beloved character in such an uncharacteristic manner. The mission itself starts with Michael and Franklin receiving a visit from Davey over the jewel store heist, but we quickly transition to the sticks to reveal a hillbilly straight up fucking Ashley from The Lost and Damned. This is already an interesting enough introduction to Trevor, but if you needed any confirmation as to how unhinged and unstoppable this new protagonist was going to be, the writers waste no time by having him demolish a former protagonist we'd come to know and love only 4 years prior, Johnny Klebitz. Say what you want about this choice, and believe me, I've said a lot about it. But Trevor's explosive debut absolutely does the job of showing us the kind of psychopath we're about to have the privilege to play as. Then if that weren't enough, after executing the president of the Lost MC, we go on to single-handedly exterminate damn near his entire chapter, which includes the last of Johnny's remaining allies, before taking out the head of another major gang, or sparing him if you're a bitch. And we do it all before lunch. In short, GTA 5 doesn't waste a single frame in showing us just how dangerous Trevor Phillips is. And despite what you may feel about Johnny's death, you've got to admit that an introduction like this makes you kind of excited to carry out the next phases of his plan. All in all, this is a really fun mission with action that remains total and non-stop all the way through. Sure, it's a bit controversial, but you simply cannot deny just how memorable it is even after 12 years. Now, let's move on from a mission that might make you feel angry to a mission that might make you feel sad. Ah yes, we're back with another entry from perhaps the most underrated GTA of all time. Light My Pyre is one of my favorite missions in Vice City Stories for a multitude of reasons, mostly being its fun battles, its ridiculous comedy, and its counteractively tragic feelings. Oh, plus it includes primetime Lance Vance, so there's really no going wrong with this one. In the opening cutscene, the Vance brothers are informed that our love interest, Louise, has been kidnapped by the most dangerous gang in the city, the Mendez Cartel, and they're leveraging her life to get us to skip town, while Vic is eager eager to go save her, Lance is more or less content with letting her be killed and tries to urge us to let her go. This is a moment that's supposed to show the player Lance's true colors, but I just can't help but find it hilarious how nonchalant he is about everything, as well as how quickly Vic threatens him to get off his ass. Then if that weren't enough, the Mendez's goons just abruptly blow up Lance's car, which sends him on a rampage so powerful that he straight up absorbs shots from like 15 of these motherfuckers as he chases Armando Mendez into the mansion. Next, following a challenging shootout that I just barely survived during my playthrough, we take on Armando and his flamethrower in a really unique and arcadey boss battle where the camera is locked against the ceiling, but not before the villain tells us that he's already killed Lance and Louise and threatens that we'll join them in the afterlife. But once he's vanquished, we finally reach our allies, only to find the blood-soaked Louise on death's door. After they share one last heartbreaking dialogue, Vic's demeanor shifts from that of a good man trying to make it in a bad world into one of a cold-blooded menace with his sights set on revenge. And of course, as he walks away from the corpse of his love, Lance breaks the tension with some comedic relief as he struggles to walk off whatever minor injury he has while there's literally a dead woman behind him. Ever since I played through Vice City Stories, Light My Pyre has been a mission that's stuck with me, partially because of Lance's involvement in it, but primarily for the heavy emotional toll it forces you to bear. If you've been able to identify with the character of Victor Vance the same way that the other Grand Theft Autos have tried to attach you to their protagonists, just if you've been able to connect with him at all, you'll feel nothing but sympathy for him here as he watches the life drain from the eyes of the woman he loves. Yes, they're fictional characters, and yes, this whole thing is playing out within the confines of the PSP's aged graphics. But in spite of those detachments from realism, it's almost impossible not to feel real emotions for Victor Vance in this moment. One might say is enough to make a grown man cry. So before I do, let's move on to something much more lighthearted. As soon as we finish the San Fierro portion of the story, San Andreas' missions start to go pretty far off the rails in terms of their realism, but that doesn't mean they aren't any fun. Pretty much all of Mike Torino's missions are extraordinary to play through, but the final daunting task we complete for him in Vertical Bird truly is his coup de grace. Following a drive out to the countryside, we follow Torino's instructions to perform the following incredibly simple mission. First, we'll need to board a restricted US naval ship undetected, but be warned, once we're inside, Torino cannot help us. Though truth be told, he can't really help us now either. Regardless, once we're on the ship, we'll have to fight our way through a plethora of US soldiers who are probably only in the military to begin with to pay for college, in order to disable their missiles, and then we'll steal a VTOL military jet. Sounds easy so far, but things could get dicey if they send the Air Force on us. But that's exactly why we went to flight school. Well, I would say this is how this would realistically go for a gangbanger like CJ, but if we were to be realistic, he would have died around step 2, tops. Either way, in video game land where we can respawn, we promptly eliminate our attackers in a pretty badass dogfight before taking out a few spy ships down in the water, and by the end of it all, we get to keep the Hydrojet for our troubles. There's plenty of aspects of this mission that I credit for my choice to rank it as high as I am. First of all, and this is a really small detail but I have to point it out, I just love how Vertical Bird starts in Los Santos, continues in San Fierro, and then concludes in Las Venturas. Okay, not literally Las Venturas, but it's in the Las Venturas metropolitan, I guess, so, you know, close enough. To me, this just further solidifies CJ's takeover of the entire state as he literally battles and defeats the goddamn military across it. Secondly, I really love how casual CJ and Torino are with each other at this point, despite the clear power dynamic between them. Additionally, Torino's quippy dialogue is always great in any of his missions, but here, it's just top tier.
Would I shit you, Carl?
Lastly, this mission itself is just so cool with how it pits you against the toughest faction in the game, and gives you the rare chance to engage in aerial combat, while using the funnest aircraft in the game no less. All of these factors come together to create one of the greatest missions in San Andreas, and of course, one of Grand Theft Auto's greatest missions as a whole. But there's still quite a few other missions that I believe come out on top against it. For example, just about every Grand Theft Auto game has that one big heist in its story, and as you're going to realize soon, that heist almost always ends up being one of that game's greatest missions for one reason or another. The job in Vice City is no outlier in that regard, and it can't be denied that it's one of the most nostalgic heists in the history of GTA thanks to its fun, comedic, and chaotic nature. After purchasing the iconic Malibu Club, we gain access to various heist setups in which we assemble our ragtag crew, consisting of a violent and hardened criminal, a drunken deadeye, and a nerdy nerdy driver with mommy issues. Once we've got our team, we give them a classic Tommy Vercetti pep talk and drive out to the bank while they bicker like children. Then after we arrive, we don those famous hockey masks and begin the raid. Following a few hiccups, we take out some infiltrating SWAT officers and meet Hillary outside, only to watch his tragic demise as he fails to do anything meaningful. Remind me again why we had to beat him in that bullshit race? Anyway, we then have to escape a 4-star wanted level, which is pretty easy all things considered since the pay and spray is right there. And once we're home, we'll walk away with a cushy 50 grand and a completed asset. What I particularly like about this heist over the ones of the HD era is how casual yet chaotic it is. While GTA 4's 3-leaf clover actually feels tragic when Michael gets killed, and while GTA 5's heists usually let our protagonists express remorse when something goes wrong, nobody in Vice City's heist bats an eye when a crewmate goes down. When Hillary dies, the gang doesn't even waste time in saying, oh no, they skip right to the anyway. And hell, Cam doesn't even get a mention if he gets killed. This should be one of the most carefully planned and executed missions in the entire game, but instead, it continuously goes to shit in the best possible ways. Straight up, we literally just wing the whole thing, and that's fucking badass. Then again, what else would you expect from a character like Tommy Vercetti? Couple that feeling with the mission's funny moments, like Phil casually waving his gun around in the car, as well as just all the fun that this heist provides, and you've got yourself a great and memorable mission in the Grand Theft Auto series. Well, we made it through a solid half of my list before I mentioned GTA 3, but I guess it was inevitable that one of its missions would make its way on here. After all, for as much as I dislike this game, and for as petty as I know I am, I do have to recognize that Grand Theft Auto 3 has its fair share of unique missions and concepts that are absent from the series' modern titles, and Kingdom Come is the perfect example of this. After doing a few missions for King Courtney, which is a fucking baller name by the way, he gives us one last job to pick up some product out of a suspicious parking lot. When we get there, we find a message from Catalina that indicates his betrayal before we revealed the true power of Spank, which apparently turns its users into terrorists. In 2001's New York. Yeah, Rockstar didn't really think about that one, did they? Also, goddamn, a drug that turns you into a suicide bomber. Fentanyl, step aside. There's a bigger player on the block and he needs some fucking milk. Anyway, that brings us to the main gimmick of this mission, which is that these enemies will continue to spawn from these vans until they're all destroyed. And what makes this mission tricky is that when these enemies touch you, or if you shoot them, they immediately blow up. This was something I sure as hell wasn't prepared for when I played this mission for the first time, but after figuring out a strategy of keeping my distance from my attackers while I tried to destroy their vans, it ended up becoming a pretty fun challenge that felt rewarding after I finished it. I just wish it still felt rewarding while these bitch-ass yardies attack me for daring to complete side content, but I've bitched about GTA 3 enough in the past. And honestly, for as much shit as I've talked about this game, I've come to somewhat appreciate how loosely its missions are typically structured, since that allows you to come up with your own strategies for completing them, which, as I just mentioned, can feel rewarding once you do. Case in point, while I researched this mission, I watched GTA series videos complete it in an entirely different way, which is pretty damn cool. Alright, before I accidentally start liking GTA 3, let me finish with this. Kingdom Come. It may be a side mission that you could forget to complete while you play the main story, but it's also one that's hard to forget about completely due to its pretty fun gameplay and its very unique concept that hasn't been revisited in the 24 years since its conception. But for as much of a crime as I find that to be, it ultimately makes this mission strong enough to be showcased in my list this year. Yep, we're closing out this episode with another heist. Hey, I did tell you how much I love a good Grand Theft Auto heist, and breaking the bank at Caligula's in San Andreas doesn't disappoint at all. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now that this is easily my favorite heist in the 3D era, and it's for good reason. We already get plenty of great moments and missions in the setups leading up to the heist.
Now I know you blind, man, but you gotta see this.
But this heist itself delivers on all of that hype as you continue through it. After heading to the Caligula's casino at the start of the mission, we roll a nat 20 charisma check to get past this guard.
Scary.
Shut up.
What?
We then plan ahead by gassing out the security guarding the safe before heading downstairs to get the crew into the building. And on the way, bitch-ass Zero disables the power, prompting us to use our night vision goggles, which provides for a pretty cool aesthetic. Then once we've got our team, we get a funny haha Woozy is blind cutscene before we're forced to shoot our way through more security to get to the safe. We'll then get word that security is trying to restore the power, which forces us to adapt and take out their generators once and for all. With all of our opposition dealt with for now, our team blows open the safe and begins taking the cash, just in time for the casino Casino's Mafia to make its presence known. This leads us into another shootout against them as we guide our crew out the way they came, leaving us to find our own way out and just in time for the power to turn back on. Nevertheless, as we continue shooting our way through the Mafia, we'll eventually make it to the roof, from where we'll perform a badass jump to intercept a helicopter and make our escape to our airfield, where we promptly knock Zero's bitch ass out for making me fly that fucking RC plane. Oh, and then the icing on the cake of this whole heist is the post-mission phone call where CJ brags to Salvatore Leone about how we robbed him. One thing I love about this heist over its Vice City counterpart is how much more coordinated this whole thing feels while remaining pretty unserious. Don't get me wrong, the job is great in its own right for showing us how little planning Tommy Vercetti needs to get things done, but breaking the bank at Caligula's shows off CJ's professionalism and intellect with how smoothly he executes the job and how easily he adapts when something goes slightly awry. And in spite of how much planning this job takes, I love how easy it feels to lead a crew consisting of a blind guy and a damn janitor in such a heavily guarded Mafia asset and walk away with a fortune, all while being bombarded by funny moments along the whole way.
Okay, team, just how we practice. 2 by 2. Ow! Fuck. Scratch that. Everybody follow Carl.
As I said, breaking the bank at Caligula's is easily my favorite 3D era heist since it feels so grand, it's packed with so many comedic moments, and overall, it's just very fun to play through. Oh, and Zero getting punched out of the end definitely gave it some bonus points in my book. Now then, that concludes episode 2 of DTDcember Season 2, which means it's time I pass things over to you. What do you think of my list so far? Do you agree with my entries, or do you feel that other missions should be placed here instead? And what other missions do you think I'll place above these ones in the coming weeks? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're there, be sure to like this video if you've enjoyed it, or if you aren't liking what you're seeing, leave a like anyway, or I'll send a blind guy and his janitor to cut your power and rob you deaf. And if you want to be really nice, feel free to hit that subscribe button too, so that you'll be notified when I drop my next 7 entries for DTDcember next Saturday. Oh, and make sure to share this video with some friends. Christmas is the season of giving after all, and I'm sure your pals would love it if you gave them the link to this video. Lastly, and it's rare that I plug this, but if you're trying to win this year's $100 giveaway, then be sure to join my Discord server linked in the description and on my channel so that you can participate. Or just join to stay up to date on whatever I've got going on. Alright, that's the last of my plugging. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you all again next Saturday. Until then, this is your boy Doug the Dog 6, and I'm signing off. Have a great week, everybody.
Christmas.